It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Hey, Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Jeff Erickson, senior editor over at RotoWire. And I had all sorts of things written down in my notes, Jeff. I have no idea what to say about what we just saw as the Dodgers walk off the Phillies on an absolute brain fart from Kekering in the 11th inning.
Just bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And, you know, you feel for Kekering because you don't want anybody to be a goat like that. But hey, anyway, you can get a scratch out a run in a playoff game. It's so tense like that. You just got to take it, accept it, be happy for it there. Just a wild finish. He could have walked a guy. It would have felt a little worse. It might have felt just as bad. I don't know. But just the lack of composure there at the end. It's just so tough to see.
Crazy. And for a game that seemed for the most part to be like so perfectly played defensively and from a pitching perspective on both sides, to end like that. I mean, every Dodgers fan is running through like, I can't believe Andy Pages is the guy standing at the plate in this one, the guy that everyone wanted pulled from the game 6 innings previous. There's nobody left to put in his place there. He hits a ground ball back to the pitcher, if you have not seen it, who panics and does not field it cleanly. And as soon as he doesn't feel it cleanly, he throws home, which wasn't going to work anyways, because even if it was straight at the catcher, it would have been too late to get Ha-Seong Kim, instead of taking a deep breath, throwing to first, where he probably would have had time to still get
By
Andy
three steps easily.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You see Real Muto pointing to first base. Real Muto's like, what are you doing? Don't throw it to me. You know, it was wild to see that there. Contrast that with game 2, where the Dodgers execute on the wheel play.
Totally.
That's what this series comes down to. One team making the play, another team not making the play. And, you know, everybody practices these things, but sometimes in the moment of truth, you know, it's just, do you have that composure? Do you rely on what you've done on your training? Maybe, you know, you need to continue PFP all the way through the series, even into the playoffs. I don't know what their training routine is.
Yeah.
But wow, just lost it there. And it's tough to see. But
well,
hey,
and you mentioned
great for the Dodgers though.
Totally. And you mentioned game 2. How about Tommy Edmonds' throw at the end of that game that Freddie Freeman makes an incredible defensive play to pick, which is like that's a repeat of this moment, right? Like it's a guy having an absolute brain fart on what should be a routine play, except in one case, the play doesn't get made and the Dodgers win game 4. And in the other case, Freddie Freeman does bail out his second baseman and the Dodgers win game 2. I am absolutely in shock that it ended the way that it did. But the Dodgers, I mean, just to put this in perspective, they win in 11 innings. They score 2 runs. Jeff, they had 0 extra base hits in this game. 0 extra base hits. They were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, and they won. They had 11 innings to get a singular extra base hit, and they just couldn't do it. And guess what? Somebody tweeted, I think they're going to win without scoring runs. I mean, this is as close to winning without scoring runs as you could possibly get.
Absolutely. Something to pay attention to for the CS, getting a left-handed bat somehow. Just you could see it happening. Just the Duran versus Pages plate appearance. Turned out that he advanced the runners. He was able to get that little choppy ground ball. They intentionally walked Shohei, but you could just see the lack of one left-handed bat. It just illustrates the failure that was the signing of Michael Conforto, unfortunately. Totally. That you just, you know, you needed a left-handed bat, that anything that could just get a good bat on ball there situation.
Totally. And Dodgers fans cannot stand Michael Conforto. I will say my mentions, there's a couple people that I think have started to say, can it get much worse than what we've seen from Andy Pages as far as offensive approach in this one? But problems for another day. Good news for the Dodgers, by the way. Cubs currently winning. So we'd love to see that series go 5 and force them to keep burning pitchers and throwing things at this. Tons to get to in this one. We're going to talk Tyler Glasnow, who was fantastic. we're going to talk Roki Sasaki, who is unquestionably the MVP of this game with 3 perfect innings out of the bullpen. I do want to say, and I know we are a Dodgers show and we're going to break all of that down. Like if I'm a Phillies player and specifically a Phillies pitcher, I cannot believe that we lost this game because Cristopher Sánchez was absolutely incredible in this one. Duran was incredible in this one. Strom, you and I were texting and we couldn't believe that Duran was out of this game, but they do get to Strom and he gets a perfect inning. Then they bring Luzardo in and I'm like, okay, this guy hasn't pitched out of relief. How's this going to look? I mean, he couldn't help but throw strikes in this one. He gives you an inning and 2/3, and then Kekering, the only weak link in that chain. And so if I'm a Phillies pitcher, Jeff, Kekering's not going to sleep for his own reasons tonight, but the rest of these guys have to just be baffled about how their team could not come up and win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think one of the common through threads in this series was both teams using starting pitchers out of the bullpen. You know, some of the pitchers they thought were going to be ones that could get you there just out of the bullpen, couldn't get it done. Kekering was supposed to have a great season this year. He was great last year, especially in the playoffs a little bit there. And he's had a tough year all year. You know, you look at the walk rate, you look at the runners he put on base all season long. He was kind of a pitcher's last resort. And in fact, is at the start of this inning, that 11th inning, the TV broadcast was talking about, hey, this game is Luzardo's for now. There's no sign of it. And all of a sudden, Kekering's up. They bring him in. I think it's ex post facto here saying that they should have left Luzardo in, but maybe they should have. What did you think about the quick hook on Glassnow? Do you think he should have pitched another inning?
Absolutely. And I'll shout out the Dodgers bullpen really quick, because if you had told any Dodgers fan at the end of 6 innings that Glassnow was coming out of this game was going to go 11, there is not a single soul that would have predicted the Dodgers bullpen was going to be able to get you 5 good innings. And realistically, the only run they gave up qualifies as an earned run, I guess, which probably is fair because the error was the pitchers. But like, if Emmett Sheehan just completes a very basic routine play at first base, this would have been 5 perfect innings. I mean, obviously we probably wouldn't have gotten to 11 innings, but for the Dodgers bullpen, and again, Sasaki is the key here, but I'm with you. I was baffled by the decision to pull Tyler Glassnow because of how dialed in he looked. On one hand, it was the bottom of the order coming up. They didn't even go to a lefty, which I'm like, if you're going to go to a lefty, against a bottom of the lineup that can't hit lefties, then maybe you can talk me into it. But they go Sheehan and only for 1 inning. And yet, like, it kind of works out. But man, I just, with how well he was pitching and how bad the Dodgers bullpen was, Jeff, I was shocked by that decision.
Yeah, I was too. He was rested enough. He only pitched an inning and 2/3 on Saturday. And it was full rest too. Yeah. Maybe because he hadn't made a start in a while, I guess. But and the thing is, I love Sheehan. I think he's going to be great someday. He was great this year. I hate that the stench of the bullpen is kind of attached itself to him. Unfortunately there. We kind of got lucky too, because there was the deep fly out off of Sheehan as well. It was really the hardest contact of the game against him. It was a little fortunate as far as that goes, but they got out of it. That was kind of the other takeaway. But you're right. Sasaki is so good. I just love the redemption story for Roki Sasaki. And now he gets time to recover. That's the best part too. And the Brewers are losing, like you mentioned. They started Freddie Peralta today. I thought they should have saved him for Game 5. We can get into that later too, but that only bodes well because the Brewers rotation's a mess right now. If they win, the Cubs rotation isn't scary at all. Should be Dodgers are set up very well right now.
Yeah. And for Sasaki, real quick, I know we're going to talk more about this. This is a guy that we all saw the national media personalities that labeled him soft early on in the season. Mm-hmm. And how about a guy that goes out and gets 3 innings? I mean, the broadcast, when Duran comes out of the game, you and I, again, were texting, and we couldn't believe that he came out. But the reason they gave was, man, 2 up downs is really tough for a guy like this. And obviously Sasaki is a starter, but let's keep in mind, he is not currently built up as a starter. He has not pitched long innings in a long time.
Right.
And so for him to do 2 up downs, give you 3 full innings, and be absolutely perfect against the Phillies lineup that is not terrible. Like, this is a good lineup. For him to do that on 36 pitches, I'm not exaggerating anything. He was the MVP of this game because of expectations for the bullpen. The fact that he carries the load that he does, keeps them in it, keeps Schwarber and Harper and all those guys away from the plate as long as possible. Unbelievable stuff from Roki Sasaki.
And every game I've been to recently, you just feel the uncertain energy, the nervous energy anytime the game gets to the bullpen. You see the leadoff hitter getting walked, and you're like, not again. You feel the tension. In the Red Series, you felt that. In the regular season against the Phillies, there was the Ohtani no-hit game, 5 innings, and then coming in after that, and everybody else fell apart afterwards. I've seen in the comments some people talking about, oh my God, we saw Treinen warming up there. We can't have that. Go through a lot of baseballs too, by the way. I don't know how, I think it's hilarious watching Treinen when you're there in person, especially because he will not use the same baseball for a second batter, even if it's a strikeout. He won't even look at the third baseman to get the ball back. There's no chance that ball is coming to him. It's hilarious.
Crazy. One other stat that I'll just throw out because I find this to be incredible is the number of strikes that were thrown in this game. The Phillies threw 169 pitches. 123 of them were for strikes. The Dodgers threw 167 pitches, and 115 of them were for strikes. This is two teams that just pounded the zone. And again, for the Dodgers fans that are in here and have been following this team closely, this is not a bullpen that has had an easy time coming in and throwing strikes. Sheehan comes in 21 of 27 pitches in the zone. Roki, 26 of 36 pitches in the zone. And then Vesia, the tight wire app, 13 of 21 pitches in the zone. He gets the one whiff, I believe, that he got in the entire outing, but he got it when he needed to. So incredible stuff from them. We're going to break all of this down. As always, we want to shout out everybody joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. We know some folks are listening after the fact via podcast, Apple, Spotify, and Google. We appreciate you. Again, Jeff Erickson of RotoWire, our guest tonight, breaking all of this down. We've got a ton of super chats, so let's get to some of those. 300 says, great win. Glad to reset for next round. Tough play for Kekering. I think he thought it was only 1 out. Again, I can just imagine in that moment. I just was trying to watch a replay to see exactly what happened. It looked like it just hit the heel of his glove, bounced in front of him. And again, you'd like to think we'd all be perfectly calm in this moment, right? It's the Trevor Lawrence play from the other night where you fall down and he tries to get up so quickly that he actually just falls right back down. Like, these are human beings, Jeff. And in that moment, with the world spinning, you realize everything feels like it's being played at 4x speed on a podcast. And he just brain farted at the worst possible time. Absolutely. And do you play softball at all? I do still. In fact, I'm playing tonight. And that happens all the time. When we make play, you biff a ball, you're panicking. Oh my God. And you really have more time than you think of, more often than not. But how often do we keep our composure? It happens to pros too. It happened in a big way. Made the wrong decision where to throw and then didn't execute the throw either. And hey, Kim missed the plate at the first time. He had the wherewithal to come back and touch it. I think I saw they kind of cut off the replay at, seeing him come back to the plate. But, it was one of those too. He might have missed the plate because it's a force play too. So if a decent throw, and it still might have worked, but it was a horrible throw too. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just brutal. Bleacher Report has a shot up on their Twitter right now. And Kekering is there, hands on his knees, face down, and the Dodgers players are literally pouring all around him, running towards first base congratulate Andy Paz. It's just the most heartbreaking thing in the world because he's literally, it's like Ohtani runs on his left, Mookie runs on his right as they surround him. And man, brutal stuff there. Again, good news, Dodgers win. Aaron says, Gibby meet Pages, of course, in reference to the Freddie Freeman call last year. I'm not sure that one. We'll have to talk to our guy Steven Nelson after to catch what his notes were on this one, but I don't think this one's going to go down in the next DodgerHeads intro video. We'll just say that. Bacon Tree says, offense was absolute bleep, so naturally today was the day our pitching staff decides to man up. Kudos to Glassnow and especially Roki. Can we talk Tyler Glassnow real quick? I tweeted this morning, and I said, here's 8 reasons to be optimistic, Dodgers fans. And number one was Tyler Glassnow is really, really good. And I know you cover this more on a national side of things. I mean, you're obviously plugged into local things, but I'm guessing a lot of national people would be shocked to hear how little of some Dodgers fans think of Tyler Glassnow. I mean, the negativity in response to Tyler Glassnow is really, really good was unbelievable. And they quoted like, oh, look at his postseason stats, which included like games from 2017. They quoted his stats against the Phillies, which included stats from when he was a freaking Pittsburgh Pirate. I mean, numbers being thrown at me all over the place. And what does this guy do on the heels of a brutal loss? The negativity, the doom and gloom of Dodgers fans. And Glassnow comes out tonight, 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 8 strikeouts, absolute electric dominant stuff against the team in the Phillies. So to me, Jeff, like I can't say enough about how much this meant, not just like for the Dodgers, but for this guy in his first real big moment as a Dodger in the postseason. Like he has forced himself into the pitching plans moving forward in this postseason.
Oh, 100%. And, what I liked is how composed he was. Like very first batter, like he was getting, he's getting squeezed on the strike calls. He was unflappable. They missed a call or two and he just stayed totally composed. I can think of other pitchers that would have lost their mind. I'm thinking of a certain former Dodger that may not have kept his composure. Had a good postseason last year too, but still, and I think that was really important. And I think you're right. The contrast between the local reputation, hell, it's with Kershaw. It's that way. Totally. You talk to anybody, you talk to like Joe Sheehan, or you talk to anybody that's a national observer of the game, and just, the hosannas you get for Kershaw. You talk to Dodger fans and the postseason things that have happened with Kershaw, including last night, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just a totally different, situation there. And but you're right. And the thing is, but all politics are local too. I get it. The Dodgers are expected to get to the postseason, and it's what happens in the postseason is how you're judged. I get it.
Real quick on Clayton Kershaw, we had a massive debate last night, and I joked on Twitter that I was whispering this, and I'm not going to whisper it anymore. There was a lot of negativity around Clayton Kershaw going back out for a second inning last night.
Yeah.
Do you think the Dodgers were happy tonight, Jeff, that Clayton Kershaw ate a second inning for them last night, and that they didn't go to Vesia, or they didn't go to Sheehan, or they didn't go to Roki Sasaki in that game last night? Because that's what fans were clamoring for. And we kept saying, hey, they're playing the long game here. They're playing for game 4, given that they were down 3-1. Well, guess what? The bullpen got them 5 innings tonight. And I can promise you that the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw are thrilled that he got them 6 and not 3 outs last night.
100% agree. And, I think it's absolutely the case there. And the real villain is not scoring in the runs when they had runners on base in the 5th inning, things of that nature. I might get the inning wrong, but just when they're chasing, when they had the runners on base, they had their opportunities, they didn't capitalize then. That set the table for that whole sequence to happen there. And you're absolutely right. The same thing kind of happened with the Yankees, although they still biffed it in game 4, but where Will Warren 8 innings in game 2, and that allowed them to win game 3 a little bit, helped them advance game 3 a little bit.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because the other guy that got absolutely crushed last night was Dave Roberts. And again, I think there were a lot of ways that maybe he could have handled things differently. And I'm not saying Dave Roberts handled things perfectly tonight, but when you watch the Phillies and you watch the Dodgers, I think it's safe to say, Jeff, that Roki Sasaki going back out for a 3rd inning was not a given. When you look across the diamond, and Joan Duran did not get a 3rd inning from the Phillies in that one. Yeah. So like, pulling Glassnow a little bit early, I think you can critique him there, but the fact that he left Sasaki in, that he went to Sasaki when he did in the 8th inning, that he didn't try to get another inning out of Sheehan, knowing that extras were looming, like all of those little decisions that I think Dave made in the back half of this one, I think you have to give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Duran had to come in a stressful situation too. So that might've prevented him from getting that one last inning there. And again, and you don't want to have like a second time go around the order either, especially like, little love from Mookie for taking that walk. Laying off we saw Teoscar have some pretty gnarly swings on the very same pitches that Mookie took. So let's credit for Mookie there, because Lord knows we don't give Mookie any credit. So but it's still it's so many times I hear broadcasters talk about, well, he was given a walk. No, you earn a walk.
Yeah,
you take that walk. You have to have some good takes sometimes, and Mookie did a great job against that electric stuff.
Well, and when Teoscar did what he did, there was a part of me, I'm not going to say it's more than 50%, but it was more than 0%, that wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. And when it's like, look, if the guy's throwing 102 and the sinker or the splitter, is going 97, like I want to give the guy a little bit more grace for when he swings at something that isn't close. But on the flip side, that just goes to show how impressive that Mookie at bat was. I know we're bouncing around here. You mentioned Duran having to come in. I do think, like, in hindsight, we go back to these little moments in the game. But in the bottom of the 7th, the sequence that led to Duran having to come into the game in the middle of the 7th and not in a clean inning in the 8th is a key one. Because it was a 2-2 pitch against Alex Call. And the only reason I wrote this down is because it felt like it was the only borderline call the Dodgers got all night from the umpire. And it ended up getting called ball 3. Alex Call walks with 1 out. And then Kike on a 3-1 count swings through a changeup and then singles to put 2 runners on. The fact that the Dodgers got to Sánchez in that spot and Duran could not come into a clean 8th in which case he probably would have gotten the 8th and the 9th instead of just the 7th and the 8th. That one pitch to Alex Call that goes from being a strikeout to a walk, like those are the things that I hate about playoff baseball. I'm glad I'm on the right side of it, but that's one call out of 1,000 that umpire had to make tonight. And it, in some ways, you can trace the thread of victory all the way back to it.
Yeah. At least he consistently missed pitches. He missed a couple for Glassnow early. Yeah. And Sánchez, you could tell, was visibly just upset by not getting that call. I think next year, if they have a challenge left, they're going to use it there for sure. And, you know, I'm looking forward to the challenge system because let's face it, we're talking about the guys with this stuff, the movement they get. These pitchers are wizards. And, you know, it's hard calling balls and strikes in this game, but that was a clear miss. And that'd be one that would probably be overturned. And I'm glad we're going to have that because I think, you know, the minor leagues have been able to make it work.
Totally.
I'd like to be able to have it here in the majors. I think it's a better game, but certainly worked for the Dodgers tonight.
Yeah. So Duran comes into that game with runners on first and second. Andy Pages is up at the plate, and every Dodgers fan in the world is clamoring for literally anybody else to be swinging at bat. Yeah. It is not. It is Andy Pages. He grounds out, but he hits to Bryce Harper in such a way that you could tell Bryce Harper was in between because he looked at second base where I think if Freddie Freeman gets that play, that throw is going to second base for sure. Harper decides to play it safe in a 1-0 game and only gets the out at first. That was interesting. Off the bat, did you assume he was going to try and turn 2 there with Andy Pages running?
You know, I don't know. And keep in mind the history of Harper and the, and his elbow. Yeah. That maybe he just doesn't feel as confident making that throw. That's something to think about as well. You know, there's a reason why he's playing first base and not outfield anymore in his career.
Yeah, it's a great point. So they end up going there, and then is the decision that I would love to get your perspective on when they decide to intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani. Here's one thing I can promise you, Jeff. My counter up here says there's about 5,200 people in our chat right now. Every single one of them was thrilled when Shohei Ohtani got intentionally walked to get to Mookie Betts. Every single one of them would have rather had Mookie up at the plate than Shohei Ohtani. What was your impression of the decision by Rob Thompson there to put Ohtani on first, load the bases, and then go to Mookie, which he couldn't have assumed to walk because they said Duran barely walks anybody, had never walked anybody with the bases loaded. But just the decision to face Mookie instead of Shohei.
You know, it's a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of situation there. I mean, it's purposeful that you have that order. That's why you do that. I think that it was, I was happy to see it though. Yeah. Because Shohei's been struggling a little bit in these playoffs, at least against these Phillies pitchers. But at the same time, you know, what sort of critique do you think he's going to get? Rob Thompson's going to get if Shohei hit goes deep or Shohei hits a big hit. And you're like, you had the platoon advantage waiting for you. No, I just think it's credit goes to Mookie for laying off those pitches is the way I view it still. But yeah, I didn't mind it. Let's just put it that way. Like, you know, hey, Mookie in a clutch situation. Sure. Let's take that. I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the point you're making about Mookie's ability to take that walk with the stuff at the velocity, I mean, the split-second decisions that you have to make against a guy like Duran on pitches that are moving up, down, left, and right are insane. And for him to draw a walk there against the guy who has pretty good control was incredible. So, again, that ties the game in the bottom of the 7th, and then it is 1-1 all the way until the bottom of the 11th when Edman with a 1-out single, Max Muncy with a 2-out single, moving Kim to third, Kike walks to load the bases, and then whatever we're calling the Andy Pages dribbler that could not be fielded by Owen Kekering and the absolute brain fart, and the Dodgers win, advance to the NLCS. We've got some more super chats here. Fritz mentioning something you hinted at. So glad it was Kim stepping on home plate for the win on the second try. Up and to the right, gentlemen. Now I need a Tums. You're more of a neutral guy here. Like, you probably enjoyed that game. I hated every second of watching that game, Jeff. It was miserable until the very end. But I imagine for a mostly neutral watcher, that had to have been like an incredible game to watch, right?
26 fan bases would just yearn for the privilege of being miserable and watching this here. You know, just the Yankees would love to be miserable enough to be watching that game. So yes, it had to be agonizing, especially for I'm rooting for the Dodgers. You know, I'm neutral, but rooting for the Dodgers. And even then it's tense. It's like, yeah, come on, let's go. The only thing is I wanted it to be with a hit. That's all I wanted, but I'll take, hey, you take your wins how you get them, and you'll remember this game forever.
100%.
That's the other thing. You will never forget this game.
Totally. I have to give my middle daughter Willow credit because when Pages came up, or when Kike came up, I went around to all three of my girls. I said, hey, do you think he's going to get a hit? Do you think he's going to get a hit? My first daughter says yes. My middle daughter's like thinking about it. My 5-year-old just says, I don't know. But my middle daughter says yes and no. I'm like, well, it's kind of like it's either going to be a hit or it's not going to be a hit. And she's like, well, maybe it'll be both. She doesn't fully understand how this works. And I said, maybe it's an error where he hits the ball in play and he doesn't get credit for a hit, but then they still kind of score the run. And she's like, yeah, that one. Well, guess what? My middle daughter, Willow, nailed it. Predicted an error. I should have placed the bet, Jeff. I'm sure there was a live bet out there somewhere. Result of next play error. That would have been worth good money.
Yeah, don't ask the Cleveland Guardians about in-game betting or anything of that nature there. But hey, question for you. This is a memorable series, and I see some comments there like it's unforgettable. An unforgettable series. It will be. We'll remember this series. Should this have been a 7-game series?
Look, I definitely think this is the best team the Dodgers are going to face in the National League, without a doubt. And I personally think you could make a case this is the best team the Dodgers might face from here on out. If they were to advance to the World Series, you could make a case for some of the teams over there. Maybe Seattle would kind of be the one. Toronto obviously looks good, but I look at this Phillies team and the 3 guys at the top are terrifying. All 3 lefties that they threw at you from a starting pitching perspective were incredible. There was not a single let up. The bullpen wasn't very good, but I hate short series in Major League Baseball to begin with, just because it is so random that a play like this is the difference between everything happening all at once. And so I'm glad the Dodgers are past the Phillies because I think this was the team that scared me the most. But you could talk me into making all of these series 7 games just to make sure that you get a little bit more drama and a little bit more fair as far as best team wins.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought there. This is shades of Dodgers Padres last year.
100%.
It's the only difference is it didn't go 5. It really felt like whoever wins this series is going to be really well positioned. And hey, all due respect to the Brewers, who obviously have had the Dodgers number this year, but I think it's a different Brewers team right now. Brewers are they don't have Woodruff. Peralta pitched today, so they won't have him for game 1. Dodgers get to reset their rotation. I mean, it's a huge advantage for the Dodgers right now. And certainly against the Cubs, who don't have Cade Horton, it's also an advantage.
Totally. Some more super chats here. Phil says, Dodgers, Roki, we had been unlucky at the plate, got the luck at the perfect time. Don't know why Dave pulled Glassnow with 83 pitches, but whatever, Dodgers win. That's the key sentence right there. But whatever, Dodgers win is absolutely right. Tarkina Meyer says, let's go Dodgers. Absolutely. D-Nation Life, hey, do you think Doc pitches Roki in game 1? Don't want to pitch him twice in a week. Don't know if he can handle the pressure. Love you guys. Go Dodgers. I'm blanking right now because my brain doesn't work perfectly about when game 1 of the NLCS would be. Is it Monday? Is that right? Is it Monday the 13th?
Yeah, I'm going to look that up to confirm. But the thing is
Monday the 13th.
Yeah. So he's illustrated he can handle pressure.
Yeah.
Today, tonight was as pressure filled as it gets, right?
Yeah.
That absolutely. Yeah, it is game 1 for that there. And
3 full days off. Realistically, it's 2 up downs. It's 3 innings. He threw 36 pitches. You've got relievers that sometimes throw 30 to 36 pitches in 1 inning. So to me, with 3 days off, I would not imagine that he will be limited at all. It is back-to-back game 1 and 2, and then a day off. So I would imagine if the scenario presents itself that he would be available in game number 1. That's just my gut.
Kind of interesting. Both ALCS and NLCS start on Monday. Up against football. Up against a doubleheader of football, by the way.
Crazy.
At that.
I know.
Insane scheduling.
Yeah. And the 7-game series NLCS will be different. I mean, this NLDS had 1 million days off all throughout it. Now you're going to the NLCS, which is old school. 2 days, 2 games, day off, 3 games, day off, 2 games. So I think that's advantage Dodgers because you just saw what their number 4 pitcher looks like by the name of Tyler Glassnow. And they are going to need a 4th starting pitcher in this upcoming series. And so they've got a good one. We know that for sure. Cantankerous Yoshi says, when the camera panned to the bullpen and I saw Treinen warming up, Dodgers fans knew. Score now or Treinen comes in next inning to give up the game. We were all thinking it. Don't lie. Treinen was warming earlier as well. I can't remember. Was it with my brain has left me. I don't think, was it with Sasaki on the mound? I think it was with Sasaki on the mound, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. But sounds about
Whoever
right.
it was got out of the inning and Treinen did not need to come in, but every Dodgers fan was absolutely thinking it.
Absolutely.
All right, some more super chats here. Niles says, what an anticlimax. Feel for Kekering. Feels like a victory not deserved, but that's life. Mirrored in baseball, so it's a win on behalf of exceptional outings from Glassnow and Sasaki. NLCS next. It's hard to say this feels like a victory not deserved, simply because I don't think the Dodgers deserve to lose this game either, right? Like, it's not like they snatched victories from the jaws of defeat. It felt like two incredibly even teams matched up, and it was just going to be a matter of who blinked first. Do you think that's fair, Jeff?
Yeah, I just think, there were moments. I mean, who blinked first in this game? Yes. Yeah. But like game 2, I mean, it was clear. It was an execution of a play, like we talked about there. After Treinen did a lot of blinking in that inning. So that's the other reason why I totally trust Sasaki, is he came into a tight situation. He came into a pressure situation too, and also executed. So just the Phillies bats, other than game 3, were quieter than I expected. Obviously the Dodgers bats tonight were pretty quiet too, but although one thing we haven't mentioned at all, the start time of today's game. The TV commentary was all over this, and they were right. I mean, trying to hit out of those shadows with those pitchers is near impossible. I mean,
what's the explanation? I mean, maybe you're a little more in the know. Like, what in the world would cause them to put a game that's being played in the Midwest as the night game and a game that's being played on the West Coast as the afternoon game?
One word: Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles are playing football right now as we speak.
I mean, that popped into my head.
I 100% think that's it. I 100% think that's the reason why.
Yeah, for the TV
ratings,
knowing that if they went later, they would miss out on the Philadelphia market entirely. Because I had people, I'm sure you did as well, who are not LA people that are texting me, why are there so many open seats at this 3 p.m. game that's a playoff game? I'm like, have you ever driven around Los Angeles between the hours of 1 and 6? Like, none of these people are going to be able to get to this game at the time they want to. And so thankfully the stadium filled up. It seemed like it was pretty loud at the end, but man, oh man, was that bizarre. For 100 reasons. Forget the shadows even, but like everything else about it, it just felt, I don't know, icky. But again, who cares? Lost to history, Dodgers win is the key. Grayson says, I kind of want the Brewers series to end today so the Dodgers know they can get to Milwaukee sooner rather than later, unless the Cubs rally back and win the series so we can stay home. Thoughts? My thoughts are very simple. 5-game series, burn through as many arms as you possibly can, and I mean, if you're a Dodgers fan, you get home field if they play the Cubs. You don't get home field if you play the Brewers. Do you have a preference? Like, do you think the Brewers are dramatically better than the Cubs? How would you approach it?
I think they're really close in value. I think the Cubs offense isn't what it was earlier in the season. Obviously, Pete Crow Armstrong, for instance, is not the same hitter as he was in the first half of the season. Nonetheless, I think that it's really close, especially because the Brewers' advantage in starting pitching has been dissipated there with their injuries. Quinn Priester isn't the same pitcher as he was earlier either. I'll take home field advantage. I'll take the not having to travel. One less travel is also nice. There, you stay home. You don't have to begin the series in the Midwest. You never know. Flights are annoying. Flights get canceled. Flights get postponed. Weather happens. Doesn't happen out here. So. For the most part, I'm jinxing the heck out of that, but still, I'd rather be home. So let's root for the Cubs, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, but the Dodgers beat the Cubs by 1 game because they swept the Mariners in the final series of the season. How funny would it be if that Kershaw start on Sunday comes back and ends up meaning something for the Dodgers?
And you can thank my Reds too for sweeping the Cubs in a 4-game series in the penultimate weekend.
There you go. Go Reds. Big Reds fans. Over here. We appreciate it. Rage and Cajun, beyond frustrated with the offense, but a win is a win. Bleep the Phillies. Go Dodgers. Arun, let's go, baby. Hoping for Shohei to be himself in the NLCS. We can't rely on other errors no more to win. But hey, I'll take the win. Who do we want? Milwaukee, Chicago. We kind of just talked through that. Miel says, Ragnar Roki, Pajes when we needed it most. NLCS, baby. Pajes, what did we get Pajes when we needed it most? I guess he put the ball in play. We should give him a little bit of credit.
Did not strike out. He did not pop out. I mean, pop outs are as good as strikeouts. So, yeah.
There you go.
Huzzah.
Joseph says, Roki Sasaki, NLDS MVP. If that were an award, no complaints from me. Offense needs to show up moving forward or they won't make the World Series. Shout out to Glassnow as well. He was great. Absolutely. Shelly, based on what we just talked about, good things happen when you put the ball in play. Amen to that. Gabriel says, and that's all she wrote. Game over. Dodgers walk it off, baby. 5 down, 8 to go. Go Dodgers. Nick, ugly win, but let's go. Any concern on the offense? There's been a couple tweets or messages, about the offense, about Shohei Ohtani. We've seen Ohtani go through these stretches. Like I'm trying to tell people, we've seen him do this during the regular season. He goes on these little benders where he strikes out 50% of the time. It feels like for a week. And then something clicks and he gets right. One piece that has to be taken into account, there is no chance that whatever team they face next is going to be as terrible of a matchup for him as the Phillies are. They have 3 of the best left-handed pitchers in Major League Baseball. So at the very least, it's going to be more favorable pitching matchups for Ohtani. But he has to snap out of this, right, Jeff? Like, there's no way he's going to keep hitting like this for another week.
Isn't this just the vagaries of baseball? I mean, in the regular season, if he goes through a stretch like that, he's slumping right now. But you put the microscope of the playoffs on it there, and it's a whole different story. I get it. But he also struck out 187 times in the regular season too. I mean, it's a lot of boomer bust. This happens with a lot of elite players. It is what it is. I think, and he'll be facing lesser pitching. Matthew Boyd pitching tonight for the Cubs too. He would otherwise be their game 1 starter.
Yeah.
So they won't have him at their disposal for game 1 on Monday, most likely. Maybe they will. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No, not really. It'd be 3 days rest. And they rolled him out in short rest in game 1 of that series against the Brewers, and it didn't go well at all. So I would think they want to make sure Boyd gets full rest. So you're pretty well set up either way.
Ozzy says, I almost got scared that home plate run wouldn't count since I'm a Dodgers fan, but never played baseball. There you go. Yes, it does count. So good news there. Aaron says, shout out to the pen. Absolute nails when they needed to be. Hard to not feel so encouraged moving forward. Also, Roki, 3 innings. He's a starter. I mean, the Dodgers fans, this bullpen has been a disaster. It's hilarious that one guy figures it out. Because I would say Sheehan, this is kind of like what we expected. Vesia felt like the only other guy you could trust. Mm-hmm. It's literally just Roki Sasaki, who has become the greatest relief pitcher in Major League Baseball all of a sudden. And yet, like, everybody feels differently about this pen. It's like we have the guy at the very end that can get outs when we need him to. And that changes everything.
But just look at the history of the Dodger pen. I mean, just look at Evan Phillips and his arc last year. As 2023, absolute nails. 2024, not great. And then all of a sudden he was a stud down the stretch again, and then he got hurt. And now he missed all of this year. But relievers burn bright, they burn fast. That's what they do. There was no lack of effort by the Dodgers to improve this pin. We talked about Tanner Scott. Now he's out for the NLCS, by the way, too. Yeah. Kirby Yates. Everybody thought that was overkill. Like pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. What are the Dodgers doing? It's unfair to baseball. That was the signing that broke people's brains a little bit. Yeah. And yet his impact on the season is minimal at best. Treinen, Kopech, Stewart, they trade for, who would have been good if healthy, but and then they've had other people fall apart.
Yeah. It's crazy. Jay Teaser, offense scored 5, 4, 2, and 2. They won. But yikes. Again, I think you're going to see better pitching matchups moving forward. Then again, I thought they were going to kill Nola yesterday and they didn't. So maybe worse pitchers isn't actually good for the Dodgers offense. Hard to tell at this point.
They made sure. I'm sorry. I was just going to say they made a point of making sure Nola didn't get extra. They didn't get extra looks at Nola because I think that would have been, that would have ended differently if they tried to get him 5 or 6. I actually thought Thompson did a great job yesterday getting Suarez in when they did, getting that lefty again in when they could.
Yeah, it's a great point. Cantankerous says, is Kekering this year's version of Aaron Judge from last year's World Series? Yet again, right? Game 5 of the World Series, famously 3 terrible defensive plays by the Yankees. Here the Dodgers are again, Jeff. They spend all the money in the world, and guess what? The reason they win is because the other team just forgets how to play baseball. It's a crazy, crazy game.
Yeah, that was bonkers. Just still remembering that game. Professional team playing defense like that for an entire inning.
Yeah, your softball team will play better defense than Kekering and the Yankees could throw out there. I hope. Jedi Engineer, joke. I don't think the base umpires were watching home plate this game. Not one check swing for a strike. I did tweet watching this series. It felt like the Dodgers didn't get a single punch out on an appeal of a Phillies player at any point in this series, but whatever.
It's because in the ninth inning in game 2 against the Reds. Not that I'm holding on to that or anything,
Yeah.
but but the thing is, check swings. I never know.
It's so crazy.
I think it's like the single hardest call in baseball.
Yeah. My wife would watch a replay and she looked at me and she's like, he went, right? And I'm like, I mean, 55-45? Like, kind of looked like he did, but like, it's all so close. And they did get a benefit. Will Smith couldn't make him pay, but he probably struck out in the 11th and then flied out afterwards. Kevin asks, is the offense worrying going into the next round? We've touched on this a little bit. I just think with a new pitching staff, a reset, some days off, I just find it hard to believe, Jeff, that this offense isn't going to figure it out at some point. Mookie's been dialed in. I think it was a terrible matchup for Shohei and Freddie Freeman. And then you just go up and down the line. Tommy Edman had some good at-bats. Teoscar Hernandez obviously had good moments and bad moments. Max Muncy, again, if it's a terrible matchups for him all up and down this series. So if Muncy is playing more because you're seeing more righties, that makes this lineup a lot more dangerous. I Will Smith is going to be healthy. By the way, like, remember, they started this series with Will Smith as a big shrug emoji as far as if he was going to be available. So I just have to believe the offense is going to be more like what we saw against the Reds than what we saw against the Phillies.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to think so. The only other remaining opponent in both sides of the grid that has close to the pitching of the Phillies is Seattle. And that's only if they have Brian Wu healthy. I like Toronto pitching doesn't scare me at all. Cubs and Brewers pitching doesn't scare me at all. This was definitely the toughest pitching matchup that the Dodgers were going to face. Yeah.
And which is crazy to think. And if they had Zach Wheeler,
absolutely.
In some ways, I mean, honestly, a righty might have been better for the Dodgers. It might have, in a weird way, this might have been like the best plan for the Phillies is just to throw lefty after lefty after lefty at them. But obviously, you'll take Zach Wheeler if you could get him. Amar says, what's more concerning, bullpen or the cold bats? Which of these two, Jeff, would you be more worried about moving into the next series? Is it the bullpen? Yeah.
Bullpen, and it's a snap call. Totally. The bats will be fine.
The bats will be fine. And honestly, the bullpen will be fine if the pitchers could just give them 6 or 7 innings every single time. However, with 2 games, off day, 3 games, you're not going to be able to get by with like 3 relievers this next series. So they're going to need some of the Justin Robleskis, Anthony Bondas, Blake Treinens of the world to get them some outs. So we'll see how they do that. JY Kim, according to a tweet, Bryce Harper was watching Roki videos with another player, and the other player just shook his head, probably in disbelief. He probably saw the pitching ninja videos of Roki's splitter and just like, what are you supposed to do with that thing, you know? So, and then it's 100 dotted in the corners.
Fun storyline if it gets to be Dodgers and Blue Jays in the World Series. I mean, the Blue Jays were the second team going after Roki. So,
and Ohtani was allegedly on a plane to Toronto. We love that story
hilarious.
Because it was another website, not Dodger Blue, another notable Dodgers website who royally screwed that one up. So that would be another good storyline there as well.
Yep. Just the machinations that the Blue Jays had to do just to try to make room for Roki. They traded away a prospect, added Miles Straw as part of a deal. They had to take on Miles Straw just so they'd have more signing bonus money so they could fit Roki in, and ended up not getting him.
Crazy. David says, anyone else's heart rate over 115? Phillies had great pitchers, disaster avoided, reset, let's go. Blake Treinen DFA. Thanks. No. I'm just telling you, like, Blake Treinen is going to pitch big moments because outside of Roki Sasaki right now, they don't have any right-handed pitching that is any good out there in the bullpen. And so maybe it's Will Klein who is eligible to be added to the NLCS roster. Maybe they finally go and do the Ben Kasparius thing, although they just picked Justin Robleski over him. Like, don't get your hopes up, folks. Dave was ready to put him into a fire situation in this game. You can just thank your lucky stars that Sheehan, Sasaki, and Bessia did not create such a dumpster fire that Treinen had to come in. But if your hopes are pinned on him being DFA'd, he wouldn't be DFA'd, but left off of the NLCS roster, you're going to be disappointed, I think.
What happened to Kasparius? Why did he turn bad? Why did the milk go bad on him?
I've been wrong every series because I keep saying I think he's going to be on the roster. When Tanner Scott goes down, they go to Robleski, who I like Robleski, but it was just like they have no righties. And you have a righty right there in Ben Kasparius who has been, seemed to go down to the minor leagues and do the thing that you asked him to do and just couldn't get it. So bizarre. Grayson says Dave punting paid off again. 2024 flashbacks. Again, he didn't punt last night, but there was accusations of punting by going to Kershaw and then leaving Kershaw in in a 3-1 game. Regardless, that ended up helping them in this game.
Yeah,
so.
You could talk long game and say that, but punting, no. But long game, yes.
David says, great game. Maybe lucky. Who cares? Come on, Cubs. Absolutely. Jose, Roki Sasaki has many nicknames. The monster of the Reiwa era, the promised one, but he's just him. He's going to be outstanding for us going forward. Snap judgment, Jeff. Starter or reliever, Roki?
I was just going to ask you that question there.
I think he's going to be a starter. I think this is one where I've heard a number of national people, Lance Brozdowski, who's kind of a Cubs guy that comes on our show a bunch to talk pitching. He's fantastic. He tweeted like over under 32.5 saves for Roki Sasaki next year. I think almost everybody that is, and again, we're just fans. I don't have inside information, but the Dodgers MO is not, I don't think, going to be settling for, even if it's an elite relief pitcher. I think they're looking at what they saw tonight and they're like, man, imagine what that's going to look like when it's 6 or 7 innings of dominating like that. And so
I think they just had to get his confidence up, trust that he was going to stay healthy, that he could throw that hard and not get hurt. Because just remember the whole circumstances with him signing, how he was choosing an organization that could break down his mechanics and figure out why he was losing velocity. He's a very thoughtful guy, right? Yeah. He's an analytical guy, and maybe he was too deep into that at some point in time. I agree with you in long run. I think a pitcher is always more valuable initially as a starter. In the short term as a reliever, it's a different situation, but you want that guy to get you 6 innings, not 1 inning.
Safe to say he picked the right organization when it came to finding the one that was going to be able to fix his mechanics, huh?
Yes. No kidding.
We had a great video of their pitching coordinator, Rob Hill, up on our channel. And basically they took him to Arizona, and they mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast. Jeff Passan, I think, has a piece up as well of just how they basically went to work and fixed his mechanics and fixed some of his like balance and structure and weight distribution. And all of a sudden he's the guy that everybody was terrified of joining the Dodgers 6 to 9 months ago. Yep. So Demon Hunter says, in addition to home field advantage, playing the Cubs would be poetic since they were the first team we played at the start of the season in Tokyo. So there's a fun storyline is there. I have a friend who's a Cubs fan, and I would rather not have to deal with the potential of her team beating my team. This is how I think about who I would like to root for, Jeff. Although I do have one Brewers fan in my life. He lives further away. So, and he texts me less. So that's how I think about these things.
So I used to live in Chicago, but I'm not a Cubs fan. Our RotoWire's main office is in Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm represented pretty well on both sides of the coin.
Okay, there we go. Zip code 0 says, is Treinen on the NLCS roster? I would say absolutely yes. He will be on the NLCS roster.
Absent an injury, he's absolutely on the roster.
Again, the fact that they didn't go to Kasperius instead of Robleski today tells you how far down the pecking order they think he is. Klein is a righty who most people have never heard of, but he got sent down to the minors at the end of the season, which meant he was ineligible for the first 2 rounds because he had to stay down for 10 or 15 days or whatever the number was. So he is eligible. Enriquez is another guy they could go to, but I would not trust him. So I think it's going to be Treinen. Jay Bobby, congratulations. He's got a Philadelphia guy here, so we got a Phillies fans here, I think. Congratulations. Dodgers are really good. Holy hell, they played a great series, sweeping my Phillies at home. Congratulations, and I am in pain. Jay Bobby, thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry. I don't know if you have a screen up. Are his Eagles doing any better for him tonight, Jeff?
Negative, Ghost Rider. Their pattern is full. It's 27-17 Giants right now, start of the 4th quarter.
Okay, so my under bet lost is what you're telling me. It's not what I like to hear.
It was over pretty quickly in that one.
Brutal. Yeah. Jupiter says, did the Dodgers go 3-man starting rotation or 4? It's definitely going to be 4. Honestly, the question I think that's more interesting, depending on sequencing, because it's 2 days, day off, 3 games, day off, and then 2 games. With guys like Ohtani, who can only pitch once a week, with guys like Yamamoto, who they try and get an extra day of rest to, it will be very fascinating. I think you could go to Snell in game 1, and then he could come back and pitch game 5 for you. So I think it's going to be a 4-man rotation where maybe then it's Ohtani pitching game 2. I think Yamamoto would be in line to pitch game 2. Ohtani, who knows? They could go Ohtani game 2 because they like the day off. I'm rambling here. I would guess Snell, Ohtani, then it's Yamamoto, then it's Glassnow, then it's Snell, and then you figure it out from there. Although that maybe mess it up. So I think the guys that you want to pitch twice, you just get them at the beginning and hope for the best. But Snell game 1, I feel pretty good about.
Hypothetical question. Who did you want to pitch a game 5 that never happened?
Snell, for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I thought it was a no-brainer, especially with the Phillies big bats being lefty like that. Totally. Absolutely would have wanted to see that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there we go. All right. We appreciate everybody hopping in for us. We're at the 50-minute mark, and I know Jeff's got to take off here in just a little bit. Anthony Witrato, I believe, is going to hop in and take over for you. So again, shout out to Jeff Erickson of RotoWire. Before I forget, because you don't have to leave right this second, but let the people know about RotoWire. Let people know about information they can find over at your site right in the middle of fantasy football season, obviously baseball playoffs, NBA fantasy loading up. So you're the place to be right about now.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. We're fantasy sports for all major fantasy sports, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. I got a basketball draft next week. You can check out our draft kit there. I'm organizing a hockey draft right now. I yap about a lot of sports for a living. It's a good life. So that's good, but you can check us out. Use promo code ROTO15 to get 15% off any RotoWire subscription. And you can see it. And we're already talking projections for 2026. Had a meeting today about how we're going to change a few things as far as that goes. So we're excited about that. And just I like having the platform to talk ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you are a lifesaver tonight for hopping in with us. We're going to get to questions here in just a moment. But Jeff, give me just sort of like, as we zoom out, we've now had 50 minutes since this crazy chaotic game has finished. We've kind of hit big picture on the larger storylines. Obviously, Tyler Glassnow, how fantastic he was, how fantastic Roki Sasaki was, the bizarro play at the end, the fact that the Dodgers offense, I mean, Ohtani's 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and an intentional walk. The Dodgers didn't have a single player with 2 hits in this game, which is crazy. Mookie Betts reaches twice. Alex Call, of all people, reaches twice. And then Kike Hernandez reaches twice. Everybody else is 1 or 0 up and down the lineup. Pages goes 0 for 5 and has the not game-winning RBI. Nobody has a game-winning RBI in this one. But when you think back, besides the bizarro play at the end, what jumps out to you about this game?
The Dodgers made the key play when they had to defensively. The Phillies didn't. Sasaki, I think, is the guy. It's going to be the Sasaki game. I think that's what stands out to me. It's really going to be that. And also the other thing about this game is it made me really look forward to hopefully seeing Zaire Hope or Josue DePaula next year, a left-handed outfield bat that you can have on the playoff roster, because that's clearly something they're missing right now. And it's hard to believe, what is it? What do you give a guy that has everything? Well, apparently it's a left-handed outfield bat.
Totally.
But that's the one thing is you could see like that's one place where they just didn't have that thing to plug into, is like when that Pages at bat came up against Duran in the 7th inning. I was just like, who's the lefty they can put in? Oh, Conforto's not there. He's not walking through that door, and they're saving Muncy for later. I mean, it's just, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. And that was interesting because I couldn't believe they didn't go to Muncy there, because to your point, they were saving him for later. And yet the problem is like, you weren't guaranteed there was going to be a later. I guess at that point it was 1-1. But the other piece to that was they kind of had used up their outfilders already at that point, with Call coming out of the game and Dean sort of, who is, I believe that's who Muncy ended up pinch hitting for later. So they knew they didn't want Dean taking it at bat. So I think that was a decision of, do you want Andy Pages batting here, or do you want Justin Dean batting? I believe it's in the next inning was when Max Muncy ends up coming in. But Dalton Rushing, Ben Rortvedt, basically the only 2 guys unused. Tae-Sung Kim was used as a pinch runner. He ends up scoring the winning run, which, I mean, that's another smaller thing. I was shocked that Tae-Sung Kim didn't try to steal second base at any point. It's like, you're out there because you're fast as hell, and getting a guy into second base to scoring position for a team that doesn't have an extra base hit at any point. And the fact that with 1 out, he's on first base and never at any point moved off of that, I thought was bizarre to me.
Must have had a red light. It must have been that case. I will say, watch for call status too. Sometimes overnight, those sort of injuries can be worse. If he's anyway compromised, you can't be short yet another bat. You need to have another chess piece to play.
Well, and the interesting thing is, what they decide to do, they actually are not carrying the maximum number of pitchers that they could carry. And with how a 7-game series is going to line up, I think they're going to have to find at least 1 spot on the bench that needs to be replaced. The easy one is 3 catchers. They're probably not going to be carrying 3 catchers in the next round, although Dalton Rushing, as far as bats available, just as a pure pinch hitter, is not somebody you hate. So I think it'll be interesting to see, like, do they keep Rushing around? I think that's the least likely scenario. Or do they look at Tae-Sung Kim, Justin Dean, and Alex Call and say, do we really need all 3 of you guys on the bench as like defensive replacements / speed guys out there?
Yeah, that is the calculus. So offense versus defense for sure. Or the extra arm. Yeah, just do you find do they have another reliever they trust that they want to carry and put into a game that matters, or would you rather have that optionality for a bat? I think I prefer the bat.
Yeah. And again, last night, Tanner Scott goes down, is unavailable, surprisingly. And I was like, this is the moment where you just want more pitchers available. But then somehow they go 11 innings tonight, and they weren't in any danger of running out of relief pitchers. They had 3 or 4 guys left in the bullpen that they could have gone to, one of whom in Robleski probably could have given them 2 or 3 innings in a pinch if they needed. So crazy game it ends up being here. Again, up and down the lineup, the Dodgers, 7 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, and 12 strikeouts on the pitching side of things. 6 innings from Glassnow, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. Emmett Sheehan, an inning, 2 hits, a run, no walks, and a strikeout. Roki Sasaki, 3 perfect innings with 2 strikeouts. And then Alex Vesia, an inning, a walk, and a strikeout. Vesia was the most stressful one. I mean, you could tell he didn't have any of the swing and miss stuff. And yet he was able to locate his pitches just well enough toward the end to get Harrison Bader to chase a couple fastballs out of the zone, and then eventually gets the swing and miss. But I don't know about you, Jeff, but as I'm watching Vesia go through that inning, I was thinking 2 things. One is, that's the last relief pitcher I actually trust. And second, I don't even think I trust him anymore. So this game better as hell end in the bottom of this inning, because I think if it goes 12, 13, 14, I think the Dodgers are coming out on the wrong side of things.
Certainly that they no longer have the advantage. And then all these pitchers are stressed for another game 2 days from now too. Yeah. So it's huge. Now they get 3 days of rest, reset everything. Yeah. This works out. And all the better if that Brewers Cubs game goes 5 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Super chat here from Phil. I can't verify this, but I'm going to take Phil's word for it. He said, Robert says Glassnow had cramps in the 5th and the 6th. That's why he pulled him. Tough to believe many things he says post game, but that is a reason. So that would explain some things for why they ended up pulling him the way that they did. If this is true, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. It would make a whole lot of sense. Now I'm checking my Twitter timeline to see if I can see anything on that there, but absolutely.
Yeah. I know I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm like, some beat reporters got to be able to give me something as far as an update. There, Hesung Kim on the last play said, quote, "I was running for my life." There you go. Yeah, crazy stuff. A broken bat, by the way, on Andy Pajes. I didn't realize that. Roberts was asked about Kekering and the losing gaff. He said this, quote, "It's brutal. Obviously, they played great defense tonight. It's one of those things that a PFP, a pitcher's fielding practice, you mentioned. He's done it 1,000 times. And right there, he was so focused, I'm sure, on just getting the hitter and just sort of forgot the outs in the situation. Kekering is a stud, and you definitely feel for the player." I know that the super chat mentioned that, but that's probably what happened. He forgot that there were 2 outs, because if there's 1 out, you have to throw home. Like there's not an alternative.
Right.
He probably just panicked and said, "I have to go home." Although if you watch the replay, unfortunately, JT Realmuto is literally pointing to first base the entire way, but there's no chance he was hearing anything, right? He blacked out. He saw nothing. He heard nothing. He felt nothing. He thought nothing. And unfortunately, the play reflected that.
Exactly.
So, Michael says, a step it up show. There you go. That's going to be a key. I think the Dodgers were lucky, obviously, to escape this series with the performance. Like, you're not going to win a ton of postseason series, as good as this lineup is and the pitching is and all of that. You're just not going to win very many when Ohtani goes 1 for a million and comes up short in big moments all the time. So the Dodgers are going to need better there. Another quote here, Roki Sasaki, thankful he was able to get some playoff experience in Philadelphia. So he, quote, didn't feel any of the nerves today. So there you go. Roki Sasaki says he didn't feel any of the nerves today. Tyler Glassnow on Sasaki, quote, through some of the nastiest innings he's ever seen playing baseball. Nice. Accurate there. And by the way, Dave Roberts did say Glassnow had cramps in the 5th and 6th. He hadn't thrown that many pitches in a month. That's why he was pulled. Glassnow said he first started feeling the cramps after the 3rd inning, but it didn't affect him much. So that fits a narrative with Tyler Glassnow, but we're going to say positive things about Tyler Glassnow on the night tonight of all nights. So that is Jeff Erickson of RotoWire. Jeff, again, we greatly appreciate you hopping in with us. Best of luck in your softball game. And we'll have you back on in the next couple of weeks to preview the NLCS or do one of these again.
Sounds like a blast. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you.
All right. That is Jeff Erickson, and he is quickly going to be replaced by our guy, Anthony Witrato, hopping in. Backwards hat, clean shaven. Look at this professional Anthony Witrato over here.
Coming back from the work duties out of town, had to listen to and watch that game in inconvenient ways, but I found a way to keep up to date. Saw 90% of the game, probably saw the last play. Wow.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just glad that that's over and they don't have to go back to the hellhole that is the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more post-game quotes. This is from the Dodger Blue Twitter account. So if you're not following Dodger Blue 1958, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, go ahead and go do that. Our guy Matthew Moreno is there. Rob Thompson said Roki Sasaki was, quote, really good and praised all the starters on both teams for being tremendous throughout. It was pretty impressive. On the decision to walk Shohei to load the bases, that was Duran's first career bases loaded walk. Really wasn't expecting that. I asked Jeff about this. I'm curious, Anthony. Second and third, 2 outs, first base open, Ohtani due up against Duran. They walked him. I told Jeff every Dodgers fan was thrilled with the decision. What was your thoughts?
I sort of saw that coming. I was fine with it for kind of obvious reasons.
I mean, as a Philly, like as if you were a neutral observer, does that feel like a 50-50 decision to you? Obviously, Ohtani has been terrible, but it still is Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
How would you have processed that? Obviously, it's a righty as well. So a righty going against Mookie versus a righty against Ohtani, the lefty.
I think that if I'm looking at this from a national perspective, I'm like, you got to put him on.
Yeah.
That would be I think that's how I would view it. Viewing it as a Dodger fan who's been living and dying with every pitch thrown to the guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, put him on, please.
Yeah.
Like, this feels okay to me. I thought at that point, like, Mookie might give you a better at bat, at least, even though it was righty. But yeah, look, I think if you look at that from the neutral observer perspective and you know who Shohei Ohtani is, you really don't care if he's 0 for his last 20 or whatever. Like, you're in that situation, you're like, you cannot let that guy beat you.
Totally. Well, and you mentioned the good at bat, and that was one thing. Again, Duran just doesn't walk people. And so you're not necessarily thinking about like, well, this guy's a little wild, so let's leave Ohtani up there because he's chasing and Mookie might work a walk. You're thinking, my guy's going to throw strikes and get people out. The ball's going to get put in play or he's going to strike out. Those are the two outcomes. And of course, in this moment, baseball is bizarre, and Mookie Betts ends up drawing a walk. Some more quotes from Rob Thompson. The Dodgers have really good pitching. They pitch great. We pitch great. Well-fought series, which is perfect. Dave Roberts starts his press conference congratulating the Phillies on a great season. Quote, "It was a war. It was a battle. Instant classic game." He goes on to talk about Roki Sasaki and his outing. Quote, "One of the great all-time appearances out of the pen, considering he started the year. He's just scratching the surface. Couldn't be more proud of him." The plan was for Sasaki to go 2 innings, but Roberts decided to push him after seeing the stuff. This is one of the things I said, Anthony. I know it seems obvious to us that, of course, Roki Sasaki goes back out for a 3rd inning. It was not an easy, obvious decision, given the 2 up downs, given the pitch count, given all those things. Watching Duran do the exact opposite, Thompson do the exact opposite with Duran. To me, that's a hat tip moment to Dave Roberts. Obviously to Roki, he deserves like 90% of the credit, but Dave making the call to go back to him, I think is a big deal.
Yeah, I think that look, part of it is that Dave doesn't like his options. None of us do.
Yeah.
So it made, I think, the call a little easier on him. Well, I think first of all, the fact that Dave doesn't like his options so much made it even a conversation.
Yeah.
Roki being efficient made it a real possibility. And aside from the efficiency, just the pure like dominant kind of stuff. And you look at some of the swings that he got, like some of those half swings or defensive swings. Like, I mean, his stuff was outstanding. And so I think then that made it like, hey man, are you good? And as long as Roki didn't hesitate, it was his inning again. And so it's one, I think Dave's right about like how he called it for him. Like, 5 years from now, like if they go on to win the whole thing and he becomes a really good starting pitcher, 5 years from now, this is going to be one of the moments of his career that we still talk about. Like, remember in 2025 when Roki gave him 3 innings to close out the Phillies? Like that, it's going to be one of those staples of his career, I think, going forward. And so for him to, the context of his season is just absolutely incredible. And all the credit to him for having that kind of resilience. And if you read Jeff Passan's piece on ESPN about like sort of how they got to this point, a lot of it was him probably swallowing his pride and going, okay, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Help me.
Yeah, Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now he's here.
Now he's here. Phil says, Jeff, come on, thinking I'm putting fake quotes to the chat. I didn't. I said I trust you. I just said I couldn't verify it. Anthony's a journalist. Anthony, how many sources do you need before you publish something? Not one.
We need 2 like solid ones, and if they're like just pretty good, you need 3.
Okay, there you go. So
That's
Phil, you're solid. I'm giving you solid. I just needed a second one. So there we go. One question for you. And this is another quote from Dave Roberts here. Let me see if I can find it. Quote, it's probably the case that Shohei Ohtani will start NLCS Game 1, but the Dodgers could make changes with the days off. I'm going to suggest that Ohtani absolutely should not be the guy who starts game number 1. So I'm mapping this out. This is back of the napkin math right in front of me, okay? Yeah. So Game 1 is on October 13th, which means basically the only guy who is unavailable for that game is probably Tyler Glassnow, who pitched today. And Yamamoto would not be on like the perfect. He'd be 4 days of rest. Yamamoto, you prefer 5, which is fine. Because to me, Blake Snell should pitch Game 1. And here's why. Because he's your best pitcher right now, first of all. And second of all, he can come back 4 days later, 4 full days off, and then pitch Game 5 on normal rest, which is not normal for the Dodgers. But Snell's probably your best case to go get a second start with 4 days off in between. Whoever starts Game 2 is going to get 5 full days off between Game 2 and Game 6. So to me, that's Yamamoto's spot, because then you get him the normal 5. And again, Yamamoto's fantastic. There's no issues here. Here's where Game 3 gets interesting, because I think the obvious thing is, well, you can't wait for Ohtani to like pitch until Game 4. But Game 3 to Game 7, 4 days off in between. If it's me, Anthony, they just said, hey, Ohtani might be pitching Game 1. If it's me, I'm going Snell Game 1, Yamamoto Game 2, and I'm going Glassnow in Game 3. Because all 3 of those guys could then pitch in Games 5, 6, and 7 on normal rest. That means Yamamoto would be left for Game 4, which isn't ideal for 2 reasons. One, he doesn't pitch twice in this series, which might not be the end of the world. But secondly, it pitches him right in the middle of 3 games in 3 days. So they like having the day off afterwards, all that kind of thing. But to me, when I map this out, it would be Snell and then 4 days off, and then he can pitch Game 5. Yamamoto in Game 2, 5 days off, then he can pitch Game 6. And then I would go Glassnow. After what we saw tonight, I would go Glassnow, give him 4 days off as the only other guy other than Snell that could probably give you that type of outing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. In that scenario, who pitches a potential Game 7?
It would be Glassnow.
Glassnow. Okay. So Ohtani,
whoever pitches Game 3 would be coming back with 4 days off before Game 7. So again, you could say, hey, do you want to save Yamamoto? But then Yamamoto, they like to have 5 full days off in between, which he would get between 2 and 6.
And if you throw Ohtani in one and you have to bring back Snell and Glassnow, it's on shorter rest then?
So you could go Ohtani in Game 1, and then you could pitch Snell in Game 2, but Snell could then not come back to Game 5. He would have to pitch Game 6. And then whoever pitches Game 3, if that's Yamamoto, he could pitch Game 7 on short rest, but then you don't have a plan for Game 5 because Ohtani can't pitch Games 1 and 5.
Right.
So unless it's Kershaw pitching Game 5 or it's a bullpen game in Game 5, if you throw Ohtani in Game 1, you're either going to have to mess up your schedules pretty dramatically, or you're going to have to like find a 5th starter.
Yeah.
Could be Emmett Sheehan. Like Sheehan could be the starter, but I think we all agree they need him in the bullpen.
They don't need him in the pen. Yeah. No, I mean the back of the napkin math sounds correct there. And if that's how it lines up, I'm with you. I think you go Snell, Yamamoto, Glassnow, right?
Is what I would do.
Yeah, that makes sense to me because I think you don't want to have to jeopardize putting anybody in on short rest.
Right.
Or Yamamoto on 4 days rest.
Totally.
So
and
yeah,
again, if you pitch Ohtani in Game 1, you will need somebody else to pitch Game 5. He's the only guy in the rotation that the way they currently have it set up who would not be able to come back on 4 normal days of rest and then pitch Game 5. And I know
you would have to go to a 5-man
an idiot
rotation in that series.
Yeah. And again, this isn't hating on Ohtani. Like it's the same fools who think I was hating on Glassnow for saying he was 4th. Like it's simple math that we're doing here. And so I hate that I get accused of being a racist when I say something like this, because you can't handle the fact that Ohtani has not pitched on 4 normal days rest.
Yeah.
So there we go.
It's great. Yeah. It's interesting that Dave would say that. I thought regardless of what the situation was, like when I first saw that quote, I was like, that's kind of weird that he would just say that right now. Like the first game's not till Monday. You don't know who you're playing. You don't know if you're home or away. Like to just say that is interesting. It feels like they need to have more conversation about this.
Yeah.
And to Dave's to Dave's defense a little bit, like he's not in the moment probably mapping out what the NLCS might look like. His focus is trying to beat the Phillies, right? Like I'm sure some of the other guys who sit in the offices have been looking at this, but if given what you just laid out there, I would probably not start Ohtani game 1 because I think it does then start to have a negative domino effect on what the rest of the rotation looks like behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would. I think that they would need to have a conversation about that and kind of fit it. Also, like it might be good to not have Ohtani pitch for a little while, given the sort of the kind of at bats he's had. Like let him focus on his swing and his approach at the plate versus having to worry about starting game 1 in a couple of days.
And that's a great point as well, is that it simplifies things where he pitches one time in this series and that's it. Again, it would mess with it because they like having him get an off day the next day. And maybe it has something to do with home and road and whether they're hosting games 1 and 2 or whether they're going on the road of game 1 and 2. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So one of the big questions that the Dodgers will have to answer as well. Cantankerous says, coincidence, ever since he pitched the 1 game of this series, Ohtani's bats have been ice cold. Don't tell the person in the chat. Home run versus the Reds, the workload too much for him. Ohtani will never admit it, but look at the series he had. How much of a connection do you think there is between him pitching game 1 and the struggles that have basically ensued since?
It's not like he's never slumped before when he didn't pitch.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't buy completely into that yet. I know it was a narrative like for a bit in the regular season, but he kind of put that to bed a little bit later on. So I'm not so much buying that one affects the other. What I am saying though is that just let him not think about pitching for a while, and because his bat's going to be needed more than his arm ultimately, because he's going to impact more games during the series offensively than he can as a starting pitcher.
Yeah. One counter to everything I just said is, would they try and do something like they did in this series where you would have a guy like Glassnow available as a reliever at some point in the series and then a starter later? It just doesn't add up to me because of the 7-game series and the way the days off are scheduled. In this one, you could pitch in relief in game 1, have normal rest, and pitch in game 4 like Glassnow did. That scenario doesn't exist. If any of these guys move to the bullpen at any point, short of like game 6 or game 7, you're going to need to find a 5th person to go get you a bulk number of innings. And so unless you want a bullpen game, I think it's going to have to be real relievers. And I'm including Sheehan in that group, but real relievers who are going to have to get real outs for them.
So based on your projection there, you get a rotation of Snell, Yamamoto, Glassnow, Ohtani, 4 of the best pitchers in the National League.
Yeah.
And you don't have to throw a 5th starter. And every time a guy throws a 2nd game in that series, they're on normal for them rest, which is essentially a 5-day rest period.
Yeah. So Snell and Glassnow would have to come back on normal, traditional,
4 days
historical
rest.
4 days rest. Yamamoto would get 5 days rest. To me, that's the simple math. Like, take the names out of it, take the faces out of it, and you just say, how do I get through these 7 games with 4 starting pitchers pitching every single one of them on as much rest as possible? The answer is Snell, Yamamoto, Glassnow, Ohtani. We'll see.
And look, I would be fine. I'm fine with that. Like, is Ohtani one of the best pitchers in the league? Yes. And so is Snell. And so is Yamamoto. And I totally trust Glassnow. You and I were fighting off the gnats on social media today about the whole Glassnow negativity. I didn't understand it. And the guy showed you, you can shut the hell up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 shutout innings after the doom and gloom that we got last night was unbelievable stuff from there. Carolina with the super chat. That error will haunt Kekering forever. Feel so bad for him, but thank you. Next. I'll be honest, Anthony, that was my initial reaction was, damn, I hate it for that guy. damn. Like, yeah, of course, I'm glad the Dodgers won. There was relief, absolutely. But the first thing I could get out of my mouth, the first thing I could fire off on Twitter was, my goodness, I hate it for that guy. Because he's never going to forget it. He will never, he will live that moment in the worst way possible for the rest of his life.
He's going to have a significant role in the Phillies or some team winning a World Series someday.
Yeah.
I think for that to sort of, that sour taste to kind of dissipate from his mouth, because that's brutal, man. Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm glad they won. Let's start with
Glad it
that.
happened to him, though,
one,
and not Roki or somebody else who I like a lot
priority
better.
number one is winning. I would have loved for that to have been a base hit. I would have loved for it to be a walk.
For Pages, too, I would have loved for that to be a hit.
You and I, man, we literally, sometimes you die on hills. We literally died on the empty Bajes hill over the last couple of days. Oh, surely this guy's got a big moment coming. He was given every opportunity to have a big moment. And I don't know, should we take a victory lap, Anthony? The winning run scored on a ball he put in play in this series. We said he had a big swing in him. I think we were actually right, now that I think about it.
He put the ball in play is key there, because remember last night, Theo doesn't put the ball in play. And what could have been a snowball avalanche kind of inning turns into a big goose egg, and then the offense basically just sputters all the way through the rest of the game. So the fact that he put the ball in play and did not strike out, which he's been doing plenty of, Andy Pages, is a win in itself too.
Yeah. We'll ignore the exit velocity on the ball that he hit. We'll ignore the launch angle. We'll ignore
he found the right guy on the defense to hit it to, right?
Yeah. He was smart. It was smart.
Yeah.
We both knew he had it in him.
That's analytics, Andy. That's analytics. Good job.
Analytics. Absolutely. Analytics. So, all right. Before we shut this thing down, Anthony, give me final thoughts on kind of wrap this thing up, the NLDS beating the Phillies, how you're feeling coming out of this, and then without knowing exactly who they're going to play, how you feel about this group heading into the NLCS.
This pitching is everything that we thought it was going to be in March. You know, when we were in spring training with everything and talking about what this team could be, it started and it ended with what this rotation could be if it was healthy in October. And we're seeing that. It is look, we said it too before the playoffs started. They have a real shot, as good a shot as anybody, at least because of the starting pitching. Because if the starting pitching is there, the offense can be what it looks like today, and they can still find a way to win some games.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, they've won games aside from, you know, in this series against the Phillies, they've won games that they really didn't hit outside of maybe like one inning.
Yeah.
You know, like both those Philly games kind of were like, oh, one inning of like, you know, they got off the couch there and decided to hit the ball a little bit. Yeah. And the rest of it was just great starting pitching and piecing together outs after that, and Roki being a big part of that as well. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is just like, man, this pitching staff, this starting rotation is what we thought it could be.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why I don't want to mess with the days off, which is why I buy into that plan, is because it's working right now for them. Like, yeah, keep riding that, because who knows when the offense is going to wake up.
Totally. And I think that the key here is, and this is what we said with Glassnow, like everybody looks at whoever goes fourth on this list as like the ultimate sign of disrespect. Like,
yeah, I don't
think the person sucks. It's like, I'm saying that the guy who just pitched 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts the night after a catastrophic loss in an absolute seemingly must-win game, so you don't get back to Philadelphia against a very good team in the Phillies. I'm saying that guy like should be rewarded and honored in the next series, and I'm fine with him pitching twice. It's Yamamoto, who's going to finish highest out of all Dodgers pitchers in Cy Young voting, should be like prioritized, even though he had a rough start in this series. And it's Blake Snell, who has 18 strikeouts in 2 appearances. Like, that's the key piece in all of this. It's going to sound disrespectful when I say fill in the blank should pitch fourth in this group. But when you factor in that the other 3 guys in front of them are literally, with the Phillies guys out of this, I mean, other than Tarek Skubal, is there a single pitcher in left in the postseason right now that is better than the 4 guys that I just mentioned? The Mariners have some good pitchers, so they've got some guys in consideration. But like, other than that, is there a single guy you would take over Glassnow in a start tomorrow? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, but it's like Milwaukee, no. Chicago Cubs, no. Seattle, they've got some dudes. Toronto, Detroit, like other than Skubal, Glassnow might be, the Dodgers might have pitchers 2 through 5 behind Glassnow as far as best pitchers still alive.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate case to be made for that you take the 4 Dodger pitchers and Skubal, and those are the best 5 pitchers remaining in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is good. Maybe Trey Savage belongs in that conversation after the outing that he had, which is both funny and, who knows, maybe true. So there you go. Incredible stuff. Again, the Dodgers beat the Phillies in 4 games, as I predicted, as I believe you predicted.
Yes.
Shout out to our guy, Matthew Moreno, who would like you to believe that he said Dodgers in 5, but who you could roll back the tape. And there's a different team, not named the Dodgers, in 5 was the actual prediction. I can't remember if that was his gut or his head that he went with.
No, he said the smart money was on the Phillies, but he couched it.
Yeah.
He hedged it with, well, my gut says the Dodgers will find a way to do this.
But I believe he said, I'm going with Phillies in 5. So the next show, he was already changing his tune after game 1. But again, we were all there, people. The real ones know. So Dodgers win. They await the winner of Milwaukee and Chicago.
Go Cubs.
The Cubs. What do you have a score in front of you, by the way, of that game?
Last I saw it was 3-0 Cubs, but
3-0 bottom 6. 3-0 bottom 6. Cubs still winning. So trying to force a game 5, push this thing back to Milwaukee, which again, if you're a Dodgers fan, root for that. If it's the Cubs, the Dodgers would have home field. If it's the Brewers, they would go to Milwaukee. Is that the difference, that you just want whichever team means you get to play more games at home? Or is there one of these teams that you feel better about the matchup?
Yeah. I want the Cubs because the home field advantage.
Yeah.
I want to get that back. And the Cubs I don't think the Cubs have the pitching to outlast the Dodgers lineup. I think that can be a wake up for the offense.
Yeah.
I think the Brewers have enough pitching that they can kind of neutralize the Dodgers a little bit. Maybe not quite as bad as the Phillies have because of the lefty stuff. But I think in the rotation, the Brewers have enough to compete with the Dodgers lineup, especially the way they're going now. The Cubs, I really truly don't think they have either side. Where I think their hitters would look how everybody else has looked against this rotation.
Yeah.
And I think that they don't have enough quality arms in the rotation to battle off this lineup, which feels like a whole bunch of guys are due.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Home field advantage is a huge deal. And if I had to choose between these two teams, I'd probably choose to play the Cubs for the reasons you just mentioned. I just want to see our lineup get right, because if you throw out some arms that these guys can hit and this team starts putting up 6 or 7 runs, like it just genuinely is not going to matter all that much what the offense on the other side looks like, because I just trust the starting pitching to be able to go and get outs, and lots of them throughout the series. So we appreciate everybody hopping in with us live here on Dodger Heads. Shout out to Jeff Erickson of RotoWire again for filling in. Shout out to Anthony for hopping in to close this out. We appreciate everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Just call me Roki.
Yeah, exactly. He's the closer. He's coming in as the closer. We appreciate everybody listening via podcast. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, tell your Dodger fan friends to go check that out. Subscribe, rate, review. We'd greatly appreciate that. If you're a YouTube person, right here, subscribe. We're going to have all the post-game content right here, all the in-between content between now and game 1 of the NLCS. We will have you covered there as well. That is Anthony Witrato. I am Jeff Spiegel. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers. Oh, excuse me. I forgot a super chat. Oh. Mohamed Rez says, Roki, ice in the veins, 9 up, 9 down. MVP of the NLDS. So thank you for the super chat, and absolutely shout out to Roki Sasaki for this one. Now I will say, enjoy the rest of your night. Go Dodgers. And yes, still alive and still freaking champs.